Governor Gavin Newsom from California called for a statewide ban on smartphone use in California schools, and he is joining a growing national effort to curb cyberbullying and classroom distraction by limiting access to the devices. Governor Newsom, who has four school-age children himself, said he would work this summer with state lawmakers to dramatically restrict phone use during the school day in the nation's most populous state. And Democrats are seeking to overhaul an 1873 federal law that bans abortion related materials from being sent through the mail, worried that a future Trump administration could invoke the Comstock Act to crack down on abortion access or effectively ban the procedure altogether. There's a very clear, well organized plan afoot by the MAGA Republicans to use Comstock as a tool to ban medication abortion and potentially all abortions. Now, this act was introduced today by our congressional leaders. And in the state of Louisiana, Governor Jeff Landry signed legislation that would require every public classroom to display yet the Ten Commandments, becoming the only state with such a law and inflaming tensions over the separation between church and state. Now, this bill mandates a display of the Ten Commandments in every classroom, public, elementary, secondary, and post-education school in the entire state of Louisiana. Because if you want to respect the rule of law, you've got to start from the original lawmaker, which was Moses. Now, that's what Landry said at a bill signing ceremony. At Donald Trump's Black voter outreach event at a Detroit church last weekend, the church's pastor and several prominent Black Republicans joined the former president on stage. So did another unlikely figure. His name is rapper Casada Sorrell, better known as Sada Baby. Most Republican voters may not be familiar with Sada Baby, but there's a good chance their kids are. In 2020, he went viral with his single, Whole Lotta Choppas, a pandemic mainstay on TikTok that was among the first viral records on the app. Trump has been courting Black rappers as a part of his outreach strategy to win over more Black voters, particularly male voters. And today, the Supreme Court rejected a challenge to an obscure provision of President Donald Trump's 2017 tax package, ending a lawsuit that many experts feared could destabilize the nation's tax system. In a divided decision, the court upheld a one-time tax on offshore earnings that helped fund the massive tax cut that Trump enacted when he was president, saying it was permitted under Congress's limited powers of taxation. Lots of folks were looking to see how the Supreme Court ruled on this case because it had implications on taxing billionaires. And pro-Israel political groups have transformed a Democratic primary on the outskirts of New York City, overwhelming the race with record-shattering outside spending to take down one of Israel's most outspoken critics, Representative Jamal Bowman. The onslaught by the American Israel Public Affairs Committee and allied groups has made good on a warning delivered to lawmakers like Mr. Bowman after Hamas's October 7 attack. They said basically moderate your views or face a deluge of political attacks. Now, barely a month in, this AIPAC affiliated group has spent $14.5 million or $17,000 an hour on the race against Mr. Bowman, filling television screens, stuffing mailboxes, and clogging phone lines with caustic attacks. With days to go before the primary in New York, the expenditures have already eclipsed what any interest group has ever spent on a single House race. Important to note that pro-Israel groups are using the same approach for the August primary in St. Louis, where that PAC has already spent $1.5 million there to take out U.S. Congresswoman Cori Bush, who is a Black member of the House left-wing squad like Mr. Bowman. And finally, in the news today, Larry Hogan, the former governor of Maryland, who was a fairly popular GOP governor, and he's running for Senate as a Republican in that state. Well, he told Donald Trump no thank you to his endorsement of him, which extends his ongoing feud with Trump and company. Larry Hogan said, I didn't seek his endorsement. I didn't want to have it, and I have no interest in it, according to Hogan. He said that on an interview and feeling pretty confident because Donald Trump lost the state of Maryland by 33 points in the last presidential election. So Larry Hogan pointed out that Trump's endorsement carries little weight, if any, to the voters in his state. That's the news of the day, and I'm Areva Martin. This is Areva Martin in real time. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I'm joined by Dr. Niambi Carter. She is a professor at the University of Maryland, so I'm sure she has a lot to tell us about what's going on with Larry Hogan and that U.S. Senate race. Also, Fatima Gilliam is here. She's the author of Race Rules, What Your Black Friend Won't Tell You. And in hour two, we are going deep on Black Men's Health Month. Well, it's actually Men's Health Month, which is acknowledged in June. And during this month, health professionals all over the country encourage men and boys to be proactive in their health by implementing healthy living decisions. This year, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Minority Health is focused on improving health outcomes for racial and ethnic minorities. And since we have such a large African-American audience, we are going all in this hour on Black men's health. You'll be surprised to learn what the top 10 causes of death that is, are for men, particularly Black men, and why Black men are at such disproportionately impacted by chronic diseases. We have an esteemed oncologist and epidemiologist from Johns Hopkins University, Dr. Otis Broadley, who's joining us. He's going to help Black men learn how to take better care of themselves and how to avoid, premature death. So many of the causes of death, the top 10 list here, are things that could be improved if Black men change their lifestyles. So talk to Dr. Brownlee about what he's doing, what his hospital is doing, and what other physicians all over the country are doing during this month of June to help Black men take better care of themselves. I talk a whole lot about Black women on this show, and I often hear from some of my male listeners and viewers that they want more stories on Black men. So today I am responding to your request, and we are focused in hour two on Black men. So make sure you stick around. And even if you're a woman, you may have a man in your life, a father, a partner, a husband, a brother, a son who needs to hear from Dr. Brownlee and this important information, because this is information that literally could save a man's life. All right, before I bring on my guest, here's what I'm thinking in real time. Last week, Sharon Reed and I spent a considerable amount of time talking about a story that was so disturbing to both of us. And it was the news of this pastor. His name is Robert Morris. He resigned last week from his mega church in Texas. It's a church called Gateway. He founded this church, and he's gone on to grow it to be one of the biggest churches, not just in Texas, but across the country. And not only is Robert Morris's reach in the world of Protestant religion alone, he became a pretty big MAGA Republican influencer. He was actually on Donald Trump's advisory committee for religious leaders. He was in the White House after Trump won in 2016, and he was known as one of Trump's trusted advisors. Trump went to this church, the Gateway Church, called Robert Morris a great man. Well, 3 days after Robert Morris confessed to engaging in he called it sexual behavior with a child over the course of several years, he resigned from that very prominent role as the senior pastor of this mega church. And let's be clear, Robert Morris did not engage in sexual behavior. Robert Morris raped this 12-year-old child. And according to all reports, and from this woman who's now an adult, he raped her consistently and repeatedly for 4 years. And apparently at the age of 16, her parents found out, and her dad confronted Robert Morris, who was a pastor of another church at that time, and told him, gave him an ultimatum: resign your job as pastor or else I'm going to call the sheriff. Well, apparently, this woman's dad did not call the sheriff, and Robert Morris did not resign from his role as pastor of that church, and in fact went on to, become the founder and leader of an even bigger church. Well, one of the elders of this church, his name is Kenneth Fambro. Fambro, he's a real estate executive in Texas. He's on the board of elders. He had to deliver the news that Robert Morris was resigned. He had to deliver it to the many, many employees that this church has. And he did it in a recorded session. And somebody on that recording decided to record him because this person, who's anonymous at this point, took issue with the way this statement was being delivered to employees. Apparently, Fambro himself struggled through tears as he was revealing, what happened with Robert Morris. And it really, this listening to this, the reports on this recording show how deeply conflicted church leaders are, as they had to come to terms with the knowledge that their founding pastor, the man who built this mega church, was in fact a pedophile. And some of the language that Fambro used, saying things like Robert Morris was still anointed, that he did a phenomenal job, that he had been transparent in his what they call transgressions. The church elders even at one point referred to this now adult woman as a young lady, and said that Robert Morris had been transparent in telling the church that he had made these transgressions and had what they called an extramarital affair with a young lady. So whoever was on this call recording it was nauseated, as they should have been, listening to Fambro make all of these excuses and be an apologist for this pedophile, calling the girl, the 12-year-old, who is a girl, calling her a young lady, saying that Robert Morris was still anointed, that he was a phenomenal man, basically making apologies for him rather than denouncing his conduct, made some very weak statement in support of the woman. Her name happens to be Cindy Clemshire, and just really doing what we see done so often in our society when young girls and women do come forward and talk about being sexually molested and raped by powerful men. Other powerful people, other powerful men make excuses, try to cover up, try to hide, try to minimize what happened to this girl. And we've seen this over and over and over again. And this is another example of a powerful man seemingly going to get away with this. There's a Texas statute of limitations that has since been revised, but it wasn't revised retroactively. So not clear that he could even face criminal charges, which he deserves to do so. And there may even be some statutes of limitations with regards to civil claims, although Cindy Clemshire does have a lawyer, thank goodness. And hopefully they're looking into all avenues, both civil and criminal, the possibility of him being charged criminally. It is just reprehensible that a man would rape a girl, 12 years old, for 4 years, then use it as a testimony in his way of talking about his quote unquote sins, but yet cover it up by making folks think that it was some extramarital affair with another adult woman. And this board of elders never investigated any of this and said they were shocked to learn that she was 12. Well, Cindy Clemshire said that's BS. She said her and her lawyer have been telling church elders for years about what happened to her, and they swept it under the rug. And it wasn't until she went public and posted her story on a public website that they had to come forward and force Robert Morris to resign. They didn't fire him when she first came forward with her story. They didn't investigate it further. They did nothing but engage in what appears to be a cover-up. And we have to lift these stories up every opportunity we get to say to girls, say to women that we see you, we hear you. Keep telling your stories, keep telling your truths. Robert Morris should get, he should be criminally prosecuted for this. We don't know if that'll happen. At the very least, he has lost that prominent perch as the church leader, but that pales in comparison to what pain and suffering and trauma we know Cindy Clemshire has suffered as a result of being traumatized by this pedophile. Uh, we only hope that the church elders too will be removed. They don't need to be elders of any church if they can't call out the conduct of Robert Morris and stand up for this young lady. And I hope that the women in this mega church will do more to cause the men in this church to be held accountable. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
On your period, sudden gushes happen without warning. But now you can say goodbye to stand-up gush fears thanks to Always Ultra Thins with rapid dry technology. It absorbs gushes 2 times faster than the leading store brand and gives you up to 100% leak-free protection. Hello, clean and comfortable with Always Fear No Gush.
When you use Bounce dryer sheets and your clothes look amazing, it's the sheet. Less static in your life? Yeah, it's the sheet. Smelling fresher than ever? It's the sheet. Oh, so soft fabric? Ooh la la. It's the sheet. Less wrinkles on your clothes? You know it's the sheet. Bounce dryer sheets. More freshness, more softness. Less static, less wrinkles. It's the sheet.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association.
We are back, and Dr. Niambi Carter and Fatima Gilliam are joining me in this hour. And in hour 2, we are going all in on men's health, talking with an oncologist about some new findings related to men and prostate cancer and some new recommendations about what men need to do to make sure they are protecting their health. So make sure you stick around for hour 2. All right, Fatima, you are in New York. I think you live in this county where Jamal Bowman is in this really tough re-election campaign. It's primary that's coming up next week in New York. Talk to us about what's happening in your county with regard to this race and this massive amount of money that's being spent to unseat Representative Bowman.
You know, I've been watching this race very closely, and you can definitely feel the money. You know, I can't watch anything like a video on my computer without getting a Latimer ad. George Latimer is the person running against Jamal Bowman. There are mailers every single day. I mean, there are reports that he's gotten over $25 million of funding, which may be up against $2 million that Jamal Bowman has, and using very dirty tactics. There are a lot of lies that are being spread about Congressman Bowman. Also, going headfirst all in on the angry black man trope, trying to link him to Hamas, which is just ridiculous. And then doing a whole bunch of tokenization of people of color, using black people as props. I mean, even yesterday on Juneteenth, he put out, a message. And so this is a very dirty race. I am very concerned about Congressman Bowman's seat, but I encourage people to support Congressman Bowman because he is a progressive voice, and AIPAC and this special interest lobby are coming for people of color. They predominantly come for people of color, including Cori Bush, right? And they came for Summer Lee. But with Congressman Bowman, they are trying to position him as if he is against the safety of Jewish people, that he is for anti-Semitism, and they're just dabbling in anything and everything that they can. Meanwhile, we're talking about a man, George Latimer, who has done ridiculous things. I will give you a couple of examples. He had the audacity to compare former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who went through an appropriate reckoning for sexually harassing women. And when people were attacking Cuomo, George Latimer likened that attack to what Emmett Till experienced when he was lynched. So these are the kinds of things that he says, while he then will use a black person as a prop and use the I know black people, I have black friends, I grew up in a black neighborhood kind of a defense, and using proximity to blackness as a shield for his own racism. While he also has done things like, he also has some potential corruption issues and the like, but I just say generally it is a very, very dirty race.
So Fatima, what's the demographics of this congressional district? Because yes, AIPAC is spinning against Cori Bush, but all of the polls I've seen regarding Cori Bush is that she is pretty safely going to be reelected. Although and in contrast to that, Bowman polls look like he's down in the polls, the last one that I saw. So I'm just wondering, is it a difference in the demographics where Cori Bush is in Missouri versus where Bowman is in Westchester County, I guess is where he is, correct?
There's definitely a difference in demographic, and part of it has to do with the very strategic and intentional redistricting and drawing the lines of his district. So the 16th congressional district in New York includes part of the Bronx and part of Westchester County. And in the redrawing, part of the Bronx got lost and more of Westchester was expanded. And so that changes the racial dynamic, the economic dynamic of the people in the district. But there are a lot of people of color in Westchester and of course in the Bronx. So this race is really going to come out to turnout. How many people are going to show up? People from Mount Vernon and New Rochelle and Yonkers. Like if people show up there, because normally less than 20% of people even show up and vote, of eligible voters come out and vote for these kinds of things. So it will come out to it. The other sort of dirty thing that Latimer has done is that he has encouraged thousands of Republicans to re-register as Democrats so that they can vote in this Democratic primary and vote out Jamal Bowman. So it's gotten very dirty, very nasty. And I encourage people to support Bowman. People can support Bowman, not even in the district. You can do phone banking, text banking from anywhere in the country. And I encourage that because people need to show up and vote. And I personally consider George Latimer to be a white supremacist, and I don't want him to be elected.
Yeah, something very the opposite of what's happening with Bowman, Dr. Carter, is happening in your state of Maryland with Larry Hogan. After the verdict against Donald Trump in Manhattan, Larry Hogan came out and said, look, this is the verdict of the people. We should accept it. The Trump team went ballistic and said he should drop out of the race. But then there seemed to be a softening with respect to the Trump team. And Trump was, I guess, prepared to or did issue some kind of endorsement of Hogan, who's running not for governor again, but running against a black woman, Angela also Brooks, for the U.S. Senate seat. But Larry Hogan is saying, I don't want the most influential Republican in the country, i.e. Donald Trump, anywhere near my race. Thanks, no thanks is what Larry Hogan apparently is saying to Donald Trump. Does that surprise anyone in your state of Maryland?
Not at all. I mean, listen, Donald Trump is not doing Larry Hogan any favors. I think this is a bit of the poison pen, right? He's endorsing this man who's been very critical of him. I mean, he and Larry Hogan got into a noted kerfuffle over COVID, where Larry Hogan was attempting to obtain PPE and other things for the state against kind of Donald Trump's desires for Republican governors, and I think even insulted Governor Hogan's wife, who I believe is Korean. So there was a lot going on between those two. So I don't think this was a moment of altruism or softening. I think Donald Trump knows how an endorsement for a Larry Hogan plays in a state like Maryland. And let's be clear, I mean, Angela Also Brooks and Larry Hogan are in a dead heat. These are two people who are very well known. Larry Hogan was beating Also Brooks up until these last few months after the primary. I think people wanted to see who was going to win. People kind of know Larry Hogan. I think, Also Brooks is very well known in the county of Prince George's and neighboring areas, but not so much in the farther parts of the state. So I think Hogan got an initial leg up.
Right. Hold that thought for me, Professor. When we come back, going to talk about how some of these Republicans are getting a leg up in this election, including trying to use Black rappers. We know that's Donald Trump's strategy. At least that was his strategy when he went into Detroit. And the 10 Commandments in public schools, is that really where we are in this country today? Stay with us when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580.
Right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. A brewery once opened in Buckhead, Georgia, is going to pay a Black chef a large chunk of cash connected to a discrimination lawsuit. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission claims the Iron Hill Brewery fired a chef after he complained about mistreatment against Black, Hispanic, and female staff members. The restaurant closed down last month. The chain must now pay the fired Black chef $115,000 as part of the settlement. A new legal cannabis dispensary is opening today near the heart of New York City. It's called Nichols, and it's located near Times Square. Nichols has a state license to sell cannabis, unlike several illegal shops near them, which have been padlocked and hit with steep fines. Mayor Eric Adams, who is Black, and Governor Kathy Hochul have been cracking down on illegal cannabis shops that have opened and operated in the city to help the legal dispensaries get a fair chance and to keep New Yorkers safe from unregulated product often found in the unlicensed shops. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Over in Santa Monica's 10 East before Lincoln Boulevard, watch for stop traffic from Bundy Drive as a pellet or some type of object is seen in the middle lane. Heavy traffic in Pasadena continues back on the 210 West after Allen Avenue, with a slight delay that still runs heavy from Sierra Madre Villa Avenue, Madre Street interchange due to an accident on the right shoulder. Over in Torrance, on the 405 South at Crenshaw Boulevard, a crash is on the right shoulder with over 40 minutes running heavy from Wilshire Boulevard. And over in Artesia, watch for slowing from Carmenita Road as it crashes on the right shoulder at the 91 West before Pioneer Boulevard.
Need to hire? You need Indeed. Their all-in-one platform helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. And Indeed's interview tool lets you schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from their website. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers have a new head coach, and it's not much of a surprise. J.J. Redick accepted a 4-year contract offer to become the 27th head coach in the history of the Lakers franchise. The 39-year-old Redick has been on the radar of Lakers owner Jeannie Buss and general manager Rob Pelinka ever since Redick started hosting a podcast with LeBron James. The podcast, called Mind the Game, helped elevate Redick as a candidate to replace Darvin Ham. Let's be real about this. If Redick did not have this connection to LeBron, he would not be the Lakers' new coach. Redick played 15 seasons in the NBA, 4 with the Clippers, but he has no coaching experience on any level. The past 4 years, Redick worked for ESPN and ABC as an NBA analyst. He was the Lakers' second choice after UConn coach Dan Hurley turned them down 2 weeks ago. Stay tuned for more on this situation. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Come
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, Gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
We're not just a thermometer recording and broadcasting popular opinion. We aim to be a thermostat, transforming the conversation about climate justice in our community. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
To help combat climate change, LADWP is helping neighborhoods have better access to electric vehicles by awarding nearly $130 million in EV rebates to customers just like you. From big savings on used EVs to building new charging plazas, LADWP is charging ahead to help all Angelenos experience the benefits of EVs. Get rebates of up to $4,000 for a used EV and $1,750 for a charger. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV.
Workers in California cut and polish man-made stone for countertops, showers, and more. Without proper protections, workers breathe in harmful dust from the artificial stone material, which puts them at risk of developing silicosis. California employers are required to protect their employees from harmful silica dust by providing proper equipment and training. Stop dusty and deadly practices. Learn more at worksafewithsilica.org. This is a message from Cal OSHA.
Hey, LA residents, it's planting season and the perfect time to get shade trees growing around your home. LADWP and City Plants are giving every resident up to 7 free trees. That's right, 7 free trees delivered right to your door. Trees are great for the environment, help improve air quality, and can help you save on your bill when you use less air conditioning to stay cool indoors. Learn more at ladwp.com/free trees. That's ladwp.com/free trees.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
We are back, and Dr. Naomi Carter and Fatima Gilliam are joining me in this hour. And in hour 2, we're going all in on Black men and their health. We'll be talking to an oncologist about some new findings related to prostate cancer and some information that all Black men should know as they try to improve their health and save their own lives, and definitely save the lives of those men in their lives. So make sure you stick around for hour 2. Oh, okay, Dr. Carter, we know Larry Hogan has said he does not need Donald Trump. In fact, does not want him coming into the state of Maryland because he's doing just fine. He's a very well-respected and very liked governor of a state that's pretty Democratic, even though he was a Republican governor of that state. We saw Donald Trump over the weekend go to Detroit, go to a Black church, although they said the audience in this church was not predominantly Black. And he had a rapper, Sada Baby. I guess if you have kids or someone maybe knows Sada Baby, not me, but that's okay. Robert probably does. But anyhow, that's kind of a strategy. He's trying to, they say he's going after Black voters, and he's trying to do it using Black artists. We know he has an affinity from Don King to Kanye West. He tends to think that Black folks listen to these unknown rappers like Sada Baby. What is this strategy that, or this, I don't know, affinity Donald Trump has with Black entertainers.
And let me be clear, I don't think Donald Trump likes Black people very much. I don't know that he particularly respects these rappers, but they're useful. And I think what he's trying to do is leverage these rappers because he's trying to appeal to young Black men in particular who have sort of been open, right, to flirting with Republicans. And this is not new. I mean, we've seen people like 50 Cent and Ice Cube who are older, right, who are participating in this. And kind of playing footsie with Donald Trump. But I think he's going after these folks because I think right now we see a lot of young Black people who are saying things like they're just not excited, they're not interested, they don't want to vote. You see people like Sexy Red saying Donald Trump gave them a check, which is not true, but that's what people believe. And so Donald Trump is trying to, I think, leverage his proximity to these folks so he can bring young Black people into the fold. But I mean, it's a lot to go from, you know, Sada Baby, who, I mean, I'm familiar, but I'm not a core audience member, right? To I like Donald Trump and you should vote, when people still have to register, people still have to show up. There are a lot of things that go into getting out the vote than just racking up a bunch of celebrity endorsements. And for some reason, people seem to believe that Black people listen to rappers, especially young Black people, and not thinking about the fact that, yeah, these people might say something. I mean, they might tell me to get a BBL, but you don't see me taking medical advice from these people either. So I think we need to take Black people seriously. And I think the problem that Donald Trump's campaign has had is this continuation of appealing to the most basic things about Black people. I have indictments, therefore Black people will like me. Let me make some ugly gold cheap looking sneakers and Black people will buy them and like me. Let me rack up endorsements of rappers that people don't know about, even Lil Wayne and Kodak Black. You commuted their sentences. I will probably endorse you too, right? So it's a very transactional kind of thing. And I think this notion of who voters are versus who people who have appeal are very different things. People say lots of stuff if you ask them, but when we talk about who shows up most of the time, it's not the people that Donald Trump is trying to appeal to.
Yeah, we know there's a big difference between the majority of people who vote, Black voters, versus just the Black community in general. And many of the folks that may be listening to Sada Baby, not you, Dr. Carter, but some of his listeners, some of the listeners, you know, like you said, may not even be registered to vote. And there's a lot of work that goes into even motivating people to go out and register. I'm concerned, though, Fatima, about this legislation regarding the 10 Commandment in public schools, because the representative that is behind it in Louisiana is also the same person that's trying to push a Don't Say Gay bill in the state of Louisiana, copying what she sees being done in Florida. And she says she's just getting started. She thinks America needs to return to the Christian roots that she believes defines this country. And she's pretty dangerous because she's found favor with Jeff Landry, a Republican who is dead set on turning back so many of the, so much of the progress, I should say, that was achieved in Louisiana under its former Democratic governor.
Well, unfortunately, we are in a phase where people just want to go back to the 16th and 17th century. You know, I mean, there's a reason why we have the separation of church and state in the U.S. Constitution, but we have plenty of people, from judges to legislators to educators to community members, many of whom want to bring religion back into the schools. And of course, it's going to be one religion, because it's not like they're bringing Islam or Judaism or the Baha'i faith or Buddhism or Hinduism, right? They're bringing Christianity. And this is highly problematic. Not just
a certain brand of Christianity, we should say, as well.
Their brand that is not inclusive, because let's be honest, Jesus was a progressive, and Jesus put it down with 99.9% of the stuff that they're trying to do, right? Jesus probably would have also had gay people in his group, right? He would have just welcomed everybody. But the point is we have this rollback, right? So now they're trying to indoctrinate people with religion. There was also a Supreme Court case that I think it was last year that allowed now funding, government funding to go towards parochial schools, right? So there is this trend. Plus, Justice Alito was just caught on a hot mic the other day talking about how, his Christian values and wanting to see more Christianity. So what we have is a problem of a certain group of people with very limited, narrow views trying to impose that on the collective. And this is precisely why the founders put in the Constitution, the separation of church and state, because it's about imposing one mindset over other people. And that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to engage in mass mind control. They're trying to ban the books. They're trying to tell you what you think. They're trying to say what you can learn in school. And now they want the 10 Commandments. And if they could have the entire day be focused on the Old Testament and the New Testament and nothing but Bible study, they would do that, and they wouldn't care if you didn't study math, unless it was with an abacus, because that would be a throwback.
Yeah, the statement about, the original lawmaker, which was Moses. Give me a break. But I'm glad you brought up Alito, because Dr. Carter, I was listening to a program, and someone was speaking on behalf of Republicans and saying that a part of the Republican playbook, if Trump gets elected, is to have Alito and Clarence Thomas to retire, so they can go off and make big bucks doing speaking events. They both like to ride high. They both like the good life. So they can go and make all this money with their millionaire, billionaire friends and travel on yachts and take exotic trips. Their wives obviously would love that. So that Trump could then appoint 2 new justices, even more conservative than the 2 of them, but of course much younger than the 2 of them, healthy and young, so that they could have a lock on the court for, 100 more years, at least 60 more years if they appoint, someone in their 30s. That's a scary proposition. And when I heard that, I was like, that makes a lot of sense, because we know Republicans tend to wait before they retire until there is a Republican in the White House to make sure that there's continuity in their position. So we could end up with a Supreme Court with a younger, more conservative version, if you can imagine it, and we can, of Clarence Thomas and Justice Alito under a Trump administration. So when we talk about people better wake up, they better wake up. And that's just those 2. We could lose a third justice. We could end up with a 7-2 conservative court, again, with some folks in their 30s and 40s. So we don't have to worry about, the typical thing of somebody getting sick and dying because they will be young. But when we come forward, I want to talk about this Missouri GOP member who's running for Secretary of State, who basically told us on Juneteenth, if we didn't like America, we should take our butts, and she didn't say it that kindly, someplace away from this country, and we should be grateful that we are in what she called the best country ever. She called Juneteenth a wretched holiday, the most wretched holiday ever. And she too wants to be in statewide elected office in the state of Missouri. And talk about this woman and her views when we come forward right on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Have you heard of the 50-30-20 rule? This can help you spend and save your money wisely. So how does it work? Distribute your dollars into 3 buckets. 50% towards needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% goes to savings. Use this tool to help your journey to financial success. Sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
Become a U.S. citizen with the help of the Los Angeles Public Library. Get free and confidential information on immigration and citizenship. Visit lapl.org/NAI to find your nearest library, or call us at 213-228-7390. That's lapl.org/NAI or 213-228-7390. And start your path to becoming a U.S. citizen with the help of the Los Angeles Public Library. Call 213-228-7390 or visit lapl.org/NAI.
Looks like Bobby needs a ride again.
Grab the keys. Let's take an auntie to the swap meet. Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, do it all in a Chevy SUV. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse limited models. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $2,860 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8% plus finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/1/24.
When you're young, life is full of choices.
Don't let opioids like highly addictive and deadly fentanyl take away your life with just one wrong pill. Addiction is a disease that can affect anyone at any age. But there is a choice to get help for this disease. Find medically proven treatment options, including virtual, at choosemat.org.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe.
We are back, and as you all know, yesterday, June 19th, was the federal holiday called Juneteenth, and most folks around the country were celebrating Freedom Day, Liberation Day. There were musical festivals, there were barbecues, cookouts, town hall meetings. I hosted a event. We called it a prayer vigil and celebration in Palm Springs, California. We had prayers, we had a historian talk about the history of Juneteenth. We had musical performances, African dancers. We were celebrating. Well, somebody else, this woman in the state of Missouri, her name is Valentina Gomez. She's running to be the Secretary of State. She was not celebrating on Juneteenth. She was going off on us. She suggested that Black Americans leave the country if they're seeking reparations for slavery. She said reparations from slavery and Black victimization, whatever that is about to be shoved down our throats for the most wretched holiday in America. And she shared all this on Instagram on Juneteenth. She says Black Lives Matter raised millions, and what did they do for Black lives? It's outrageous to see people ask you for reparations, lady, even though they never went through slavery. These ungrateful people should be celebrating because they were born in the greatest nation to ever exist. And then she said, here's a tip. If you don't like America, kindly get the F out. Ooh, ouch. All right, Dr. Carter, Miss Gomez was on one yesterday. I don't know what triggered her, but she was like going all in on us for some reason.
Well, this is not for some reason, right? I mean, she's appealing to who her voters are, which she thinks are white supremacists and racists. I mean, she's also burned books, right? LGBTQ themed books. I mean, she's a hate-filled person, and kindly, I mean, she could, take a squat in the cactus patch for all I care. I mean, these kinds of people who want to cosplay whiteness because they think that it brings them a certain esteem. And I hate to break it to her, she's not a white woman, not in Missouri, and not in the minds of even most people who vote for her. She's a pretty woman with an accent, but because she says the right things, people forget or let it go by that she's Colombian, right? And I think this is the playbook for a lot of groups that come to the US, right? Which is you can dump on Black Americans, and that is your way into any kind of social esteem. So she's learned that. So she's going to adopt all the Christian nationalism, like we were just talking about in the previous section, all of the racism, all of the homophobia, all of the transphobia, and operationalize that right into some sort of franking campaign in a bid to get more power. And unfortunately, people like her are very dangerous, and they're usually the most dangerous to other people who look like them, right? And other people who are marginalized in ways that she is, but she may not acknowledge, right? And so calling Juneteenth ratchet, when really these are the very same people that paved the way for her in her family to be able to be in this country, I think is real rich. Coming from her, but this is not about history lessons, right? It never is. It's about being racist and mean because it's easy to beat up on Black people. It's easy to use that for political fodder and win. It's easy to use that and say all kinds of things and not lose a single thing, right? She's not going to lose a job.
No, not only is she not losing, I'm looking at the comments under her,
people are like great
post. And folks are going, you go, girl. You are American. You're the greatest politician in America. Fatima, they're giving her high fives. They're like, oh, you speaking truth to power. You're saying what we believe. We love this woman. And it is kind of funny listening to her because she is struggling with her English. I'm sorry, Valentina. She's struggling with really making a coherent sentence about slavery. Obviously doesn't know anything about slavery or U.S. history. So she's a little sad. I mean, you can be mad at her, Fatima, but you could also feel a little like, oh, poor baby. Because she's so dumb. She doesn't even know she's that dumb. So
I feel zero poor baby because what she is spewing is dangerous. And she is just riding the coattails of all of the white supremacist talking points, right? And then she's anti-gay. She's in photographs with assault rifles. I mean, she's just taken everything out of the far right extremist playbook. and I think it's very rich. I mean, if anyone should be leaving, I wish we could find a way to send her back to Colombia. Because she's exactly the kind of person that we don't need nor want here. And this speaks to a bigger issue. And the bigger issue is people are so uneducated about the history of this country when they immigrate here and understanding that there was indigenous genocide, African enslavement. And so they wanted to follow the yellow brick road to opportunity and take all of the upside and not have to deal with the downside. And the downside is, yes, reparations for the people that built this country and built this wealth. But what she wants to do is dabble in whatever is going to prop up her power and prop up her ability to, shine a light on what is really a really disgusting, problematic brand. So, Juneteenth is a moment for us all to pause and recognize what this country is really founded on, as opposed to having people like her that want to engage in white supremacy. And I'll just say, this is not unique to her as an immigrant. I've encountered people who are immigrants and yet were birthers about Barack Obama. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. You weren't even born here and you're coming for somebody who was born here. I'm not trying to say that once people come here and become Americans, they're not Americans and they shouldn't have the same kind of rights. But I find it really hypocritical and offensive, especially for somebody like me, whose family has been in this country for nearly 400 years, including having been enslaved, to have to listen to all that nonsense and noise coming from that woman. So I want to say bye-bye, go away, and go find some felony to get you out of this country.
She's probably triggered because St. Louis, which is the largest city in Missouri, the mayor, a good friend of mine, Tashura Jones, progressive Black female mayor, first ever in the city, put together a reparations commission. They are meeting and they are producing their reparations report this month. And so that's why she's talking about reparations being shoved down their throats. And she's seen the news. She knows the headlines. She knows that folks all over this country are, studying reparations, looking for ways to repair the harm that was done to enslaved people. Give it up for our, Wes Moore, your governor, Dr. Carter, 175,000 expunging the records of low-level marijuana users, a form of reparations, because those people have been held back in many cases in terms of getting jobs and apartments and credit. So she knows what's happening, and it's just a backlash. She's just poor. I'm gonna keep calling her poor thing because she's pretty pathetic. This is the way we kind of pat people on the top of their heads. But Dr. Carter, just real quickly, what was that response from Wes Moore, who I happen to love? And he was just in LA about a week ago. I had the privilege of being at a really small reception with him and talking to him pretty extensively. But what was the response from that big news? I think it came out Tuesday or Wednesday.
Oh man, I think most people are quite grateful. I mean, Kurt Schmoke tried to do something like this when he was in office, people trying to push for decriminalization for a long time. But the fact that he got it done, I think, is a lot of gravitas on his part. I think it shows his power, if you will. But I think it also it shows how we are different, how we are changing, that you have so many people making money off of marijuana in a state like Maryland and other places, Colorado, California, where it's legal. And you have all these Black and brown men and women who are sent to prison for the very same thing, who will never be able to enjoy this industry, who won't be able to do most things like get student loans to go to college. So this is huge. For trying to bring people back into our communities in a way that we say that we want to, right? So that people hopefully can avoid returns to prison and other kinds of things that make life harder. So, I mean, this is one way to be compassionate. So I think, at least from all the corners I've heard, people were very excited, because I don't know any person who hasn't been touched by addiction or drugs in some kind of way, where people are selling, right? Mostly selling, right? And being sent to prison. I mean, people that we know, whether in our families or people in our communities. And so what is this going to mean for places like Baltimore and Prince George's County, where I'm from, Montgomery County, Howard County, Anne Arundel County, to see these men and women come back home with a real shot at a life? That's the kind of thing that we need in a state like Maryland.
Yeah, such leadership. And I had a chance to really thank him for doing something most governors don't have the courage to do, and that was to endorse Angela Alsobrooks during that primary, Democratic primary. Most governors would have played politics with that and said, oh, I can't endorse, there's too many Dems, etc. So he is just proving himself to be quite the leader and setting, I think, the standard really high for other governors to follow. So kudos again to your governor, Wes Moore. And thank you so much, Dr. Carter. Thank you so much, Fatima. We are out of time. Always a pleasure to be in conversation with both of you. When we come forward, we're going to be talking about Black men and their health. What can be done to make sure we are saving more of these brothers who are dying prematurely from chronic diseases that they don't have to die from. So stick around for hour 2 of Aretha Martin in real time when we come forward.